That's classic.
All right. There you go. It is classic. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the AI Analyst question mark. Apparently, my co-host is dying of laughter, but we'll get it back to serious things in a moment or two. My name is Andy Cotgreve. I'm co-founder of How to Speak Data, Tableau, and what are we trying to do? This is a show where I'm trying to bring together all this maelstrom of AI thinking, right? It's disrupting our field, but how? I don't know. So I'm going to try and bring all the disparate voices and diverse voices to assist me in finding that. And today, with episode 1, we're actually going to dissect the 3 predictions I made, all of which are AI data analysis related. So I put a post out on LinkedIn and everywhere else at the start of January saying OpenAI will implode this year. Semantic layers, so boring, but they are growing in importance, and data literacy funding dries up just as I become an independent data literacy trainer. Timing, Andy. Love it. So that's what we're going to talk about for the next 40 minutes or so, and I'm joined by Christine. Christine, say hi.
Hello. I'm Christine Haskell, and I teach and advise on the human side of technical work, values, governance, and decision-making under pressure, especially as AI moves from demos to day-to-day operations. First of all, happy 2026. We've made it in the first month and a half or so. And thank you for putting your predictions out there with your name on all of them. And the fun part, that's the fun part of the first part of the year. And that we get to sort of confidently be wrong in public together. I think that's kind of fun. When I read your post, I think what I loved is that it's not really 3 predictions so much. It's one story about a bottleneck told 3 different ways, and the story is that AI is moving from demo magic, sort of black box magic, to hard hat work. And hard hat work is always less glamorous and much more expensive. And I don't know that I'm here to tear your predictions up so much. That sounds so violent, and I'm not a violent person.
No.
But on the point of OpenAI, being, imploding, I don't know that I would say it's imploding so much. I would probably say like restructure or tightening the belt, or I think that's why we're seeing so many of these words like stop funding requests and layoffs and things like that. That pressure is really real because the business case has to survive the contact with procurement and risk and the dreaded question of who owns this when it breaks. You know?
Oh, well, okay. Well, let's come on to that then. So, that's, by the way, Christine and I worked together for several years at Tableau and Salesforce. It's been great keeping contact with you since then. So, well, that's a great start. That's a great start on this AI bubble conversation. I think it's going to implode. I went to Pexels and chose this image of a popping water balloon. Christine thought it looked like a scrotum. I thought I'd stick with it anyway. You can let us know in the comments what you think. Right. But is AI going to implode? As Christine's alluded to here, there are a lot of headlines alluding to disaster. Headlines based on fact. So $100 billion, that circular investment of NVIDIA investing in OpenAI, who invest in something else, who invest in NVIDIA. Well, that $100 billion investment is on ice. The Economist is really pretty consistent in its reporting on OpenAI right now. This was January, so make or break year with a lot of this. And then in November last year, you probably know, Altman sent a memo to everybody saying it's code red. We have got to focus on our core products, right? Because Google is coming to eat OpenAI. Now, you could say to me, legitimately, Andy, but journalists, they're there to spread bad news. It's like, fine. So we can look for the data to support some of this. On Topia, I'm not sure how trusted we can trust Topia, but I think that, they're a pretty established site. That blue bar is the market share of ChatGPT. You can see it's going down. Gemini is growing and taking most of that. but more importantly, in enterprise market share, Anthropic is winning that race significantly. The blue line going from left to right here is the blue line is, there you go, let's get it. That's ChatGPT. It's got a huge problem, right? I'll come on to wish casting. On top of that, you've got growing evidence that scaling, which is what ChatGPT is doing to try and improve its AI models, just doesn't work. You can build bigger and bigger data centers and burn more and more billions of dollars, but that actually won't get to Gen AGI. So it's really the burn rate compared to the income that is getting to me. Now, wish casting. Great podcast, Prof G Markets, Scott Galloway. Somebody put in the comments of my post in LinkedIn saying, go check this one out. And Josh Brown, he was a finance dude, very bullish about AI. In fact, Christine, he said, he's like, well, you've just got to look where the investment money is to see the reality. I'm like, yeah, but you and I remember the dot-com bubble, right? And there were a lot of investors who got savagely burnt there. But he did use this phrase, wish casting. He said a lot of the naysayers, Christine, they're just wish casting because they wish the end of OpenAI. They're not forecasting it. And I confess, there's an element of truth there. These two books I read last year, Empire of AI, everyone should read it if they haven't. It's about Sam Altman and the history of OpenAI, and it's just all about all the exploitations. And that led me to Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakely. And at this point, my world order has been shaken to the core. So yes, I am wish casting it because I would like the world to be controlled by fewer white, ultra-rich male CEOs. That would be a good thing. So there you go. That's what I base my prediction on. But what do you think?
I don't think that you're wrong. I don't think that you're wrong in the sense that there's a lot to respond to there. Like there's a real claim in the sense that the unit economics pressure is intense. Yes. I mean, the headlines are very like the sky is falling, and depending on which report you look at, the estimates are, point to a very large projected cash burn in 2026 and beyond. So yes. Then, I can't see all your slides right now, but there's an ongoing requirement to prove believable path to profitability. And that always happens on bubbles, right? Like that happened in early 2000s when the bubble burst. That happened in, with the equity crisis in 2008. And then the banks start getting, like, let's get serious and let's get the ROI on things, right? But again, that's where we start seeing the language of consolidation and restructuring and firms getting ruthless about profit. And it feels very kind of 90s punk, right? And out there right now. And kind of Thatcher-esque. And
so, And I think the thing I'm trying to distinguish here is that the technology isn't going away, right? I think OpenAI is going to suffer from being that first leader because Google has come and proven it's got deeper, it's got models that are equivalent and a much wider product platform that it can address. Claude is focusing on enterprise. And so it's just, whereas 2 years ago, if you said, oh, I'm using AI, everyone was like, well, you mean you're using ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Whereas now, OpenAI have lost what they had. And so I think that implosion is going to come at a request for a bailout, and I hope to hell they don't bail it out because once again we get, oh yeah, you're too big to fail, right? And that's capitalism gone completely wrong, right?
Yeah, but I also think that the enterprise story isn't that LLMs don't work; it's that LLMs work, but the integration costs are where budgets go to die. And if anything breaks, it's not the model, it's the business case when token plus engineering plus risk costs stack up, So in big orgs, like AI spend becomes a portfolio fight. And Forrester is already signaling, defers and harder ROI scrutiny in 2006. And these bailout ideas, right, the possible, headline, I don't know. I just, the more likely reality to me is that product and pricing changes, tighter enterprise packaging, more partnerships, and fewer kind of moonshot side quests, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, kind of having more focus. But the
Yeah.
bailout narrative to me feels like theater, and the margin narrative is physics.
It's physics. I love it. So I think BJ, OpenAI becomes an advertising platform as well, right? And we are just in terms of consumer applications, the tide is the tide turning. Are we beginning to become tired of being advertised to? This, I'm interested. How much do you think introducing advertising is going to actually damage OpenAI more than it might increase revenue? Do you think it'll be a net positive?
Okay, wait, say that again.
Do you think advertising within OpenAI will be a net positive for the firm or a negative?
That I don't know, but I look at general incentives as a sort of broader topic, like thinking about incentives and accountability in general. And if we want measured growth, what would actually force it, right? Liability, product safety standards, procurement discipline, antitrust. I'm thinking about sort of this capitalism tech bro thing that you brought up earlier. And even to take it a level higher, the book that you were showing, the two books, the Grace,
Empire of AI,
which I think are great books, but this sort of backlash to capitalism, I don't think capitalism is what people are reacting to. I think it's unrestrained growth.
Yes.
That's rewarded, right? Over measured growth, because measured growth is boring. Measured growth doesn't make headlines. And, you think of it this way. If you saw a shark binging on raw meat, we wouldn't get so excited by that. I mean, we wouldn't moralize it. We just call it a shark, right? And companies are sharks and they do what they do. And we can't expect them to become vegetarians. Because sharks aren't vegetarians. We can only decide what we're willing to put in the water with them. And no one wants to say, I want more regulation in a climate where we are literally regulating anti-regulation. And that's why, just to take this non sequitur for a brief second, that's why the comment like Benioff's ice joke landed so poorly. That he thought he was back in a high roller room with his buddies, or playing to a room that he wished he had. But instead, he found himself in the Ohana room that he had carefully branded in front of a diverse workforce. And ultimately, speaking about immigration regulation, and best of luck to his HR and comms team to fix that one. But so the question aren't they bad? It's the tank design and what guardrails, what guardrails price the damage and reward durably, and governance. And every time the word governance, regulation, guardrails, those are all kind of the plumbing and the dry, and although those are sort of the people's eyes kind of glaze over and roll, but those are, to me, those are kind of exciting puzzle problem solving words of what is this business about, what are you trying to solve, and let us help you get there safely.
I love it. Wow, what amazing metaphors you've just created. Shark, a vegetarian shark. Is that what I'm trying to aspire to? In which case,
I don't think we're trying to aspire to a vegetarian shark. That's the whole point, because you can't get there. I think that's what was proven by all of these false banners. I mean, we're getting really a little off our script here, but we proved that sharks can't be vegetarians with all of this false purpose economy and conscious business and sustainability, that these companies were putting on these wrappers that we knew were wrappers. We saw the kind of greening of these companies from the inside. When we were inside them, we're like, this will never last. This is skin deep. This is not lived values. This Ohana that we're talking about, this is not real. We all know it. And now these CEOs are showing who they really are, and we are. And how is it that we're shocked? They were always like this. This is what they really are.
Yeah.
Right. And
I get it.
and they're showing how they are in real life, that's the shark.
Right. I'm gonna leave that topic there because I have nothing further to add. Yeah, that's great. So thank you, Christine. Are we in agreement on this one? You
Yeah,
think?
I think so.
Hurrah!
So I think so my question for the second one, I think, is what does the semantic layer so I think that so the now that we've done the tank economics, I think we can move on to sort of the broccoli, which was what I was getting to with the governance. And the broccoli is the semantics, and the semantics is what does the semantic layer look like in real organizations? Is it sort of death in Jira, or is it something a product team can ship? Because the difference between, the difference determines whether this becomes real, right?
Yeah, right. That's a great start. Incidentally, I did try and placate Christine with a picture of a broccoli, but she thought that was even worse than the scrotum water balloon.
Because it was.
And if you've just joined us, you'll have to rewind and watch the recording, which will be available in order to understand what the hell I'm talking about.
And I wish you could put the chat. I can't log into the chat for some reason. So.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I can see some. I can see the chat. So anyway, sorry you can't. So semantics. Well, at the end of last year and in this year, we're seeing everybody's talking about semantics. We've got ones that apply to the UK National Health Service. A whole bunch of tech companies announced the Open Semantic Interchange. Apparently, they announced it a mere 2 meetings or so after discussing it. So we'll wait to see what actually happens. But semantics is really important, right? And I find semantics hilarious because it just sends me to sleep. One of Tableau Next's core strategies that we had to go and talk about for the last 18 months of my time at Tableau was Tableau semantic layers. And one of the reasons I left Tableau was because it's so goddamn boring. I'm like, there's nothing I want to talk about less than semantics. But here goes. It's important, right? If we want this Gen AI stuff to work in business analytics, we need to close the semantic gap. So imagine, go with me, Christine. I'm still trying to get this model and these slides right. So over time, business language evolves. That's the orange line, the number of changes, right? And so if the definition of your business logic just stayed the same, that gap would get bigger and bigger and bigger. With Gen AI, when you're using LLMs to do data analysis or interpret data, then the semantic gap does get smaller because the LLMs have really intelligent world models. They can infer what sales might mean. They can infer what profit might mean. And so they can make a fair guess looking at your data and looking at field names exactly what's going on. But they can't speak the actual language of your organization. What do you mean when you mean cost per lead or churn rates? What is an active user, right? And these things are, sorry, go ahead.
Why do you hate semantics?
I'll get onto that in a minute. Okay. That's a great question, right? So these things are, so these definitions change, right? So doing nothing, semantic gap will shrink. But if you invest heavily in a semantic layer and really try and widely understand your corporate language, then that semantic gap can shrink. Now, I think there will always be a gap because your business language is always going to change. And I draw this on a timeline because of that change, right? Let's say we could go to an organization, Christine, and take a snapshot of it and define a perfect semantic layer. You can guarantee that within a week, somebody will launch a new marketing campaign and they'll change the way they measure the business, right? So I think semantics are vital because if we want Gen AI to succeed, it has to have full context of your data. Otherwise, it's just going to do the most vanilla interpretations and return results that don't quite match what you need. And the answer to the question why I hate it is because I'm a front-end presentation guy. And I've over 20 years, I tried a career in back-end DLL. Do you remember dynamic link libraries? Writing DLL for financial software. I hated it. I was made redundant from that job after 2 years. It was one of the happiest. It was the happiest day of my time at that company. Right. I'm just not. I applaud the engineers, the architects who enjoy this stuff. I sit atop them, enjoying them doing their great work. It's just I only hate it because it's just not for me. Right. It's vital, but it's not for me. So there you go.
I love it, and I think I have a love-hate relationship with it.
With semantics, full stop.
Yeah, like it's
right.
It is the ultimate example of human expression, in the sense that everyone has to put their DNA on something. Like customer ID is a perfect example. You would think that it would be the easiest thing to define, and yet there's like 17 definitions of it.
Yeah.
And so when I work with people, it's often like marriage counseling, of getting people together and saying, let's agree on what this term means and how we will roll it up, right? Or region, like region's another one. And so how do you bring people together, to sort of agree and combine? Because language is the ultimate literal human expression. And then it's the manifestation of collaboration. Like there's nothing more human than semantics, and there's nothing more human than to want to automate that human friction. And yet you can't automate that because it's literally a human expression of creativity. Like it is one thing that you cannot have a machine take over, because it literally expresses something that a machine can't define. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, but it destroys a lot of noise coming from the industry right now. Obviously, Tableau's talking about it. ThoughtSpot have done a whole bunch on semantics recently. All the vendors are talking about it, right? And I guess my pro AI, my pro AI devil's advocate response would be, but these models are trained on language, right? So they are a manifestation of human language, and can take on a lot of these roles, right? Can they not?
Maybe not. But there's like, if it hallucinates in our, I can't remember if you said it or wrote it. It hallucinates in our language, or hallucinates in our form. There still has to be some human oversight to it. So regardless, there's a human in the loop. And I always flip that model to be a machine in our human loop, right? That I don't, even when there was Excel in that loop, and there's still a human figuring out what the language is ultimately. Even if it's even if there's automation in it, ultimately a human is determining what that language is, and how it's going to roll up.
But you see, right. Okay, I'm gonna challenge you. First of all, we'll say Patrick, a Tableau user group leader, is like, couldn't care less. Get a DBA and let them do the work. So I think Patrick has the characteristics that I do too. Content guys. Somebody unknown says the Semantic Gap is a Muzak band name.
Yeah.
I can imagine they'd be sort of in the genre of Joy Division, sort of early 80s gothic pop music, synth music. That'd be cool.
Yeah, but you have to be able to reverse engineer and tease this, because there's going to be some audit at some point. There's going to be a lawsuit when finance has to tease, like when a trade went amiss, or when an agent has executed a task.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Is that not just that's a problem wider than semantic layers, right? I mean, because the more we cede any decision to a LLM, who's responsible? I mean, even when I've the time I asked ChatGPT to make a simple chart of simple data, and it just got the dates misordered incorrectly, right? I could have copy and pasted that chart.
Maybe I convoluted something, but at some point you're going to still have to reverse engineer how that term or that layer was created so that you can unpack it and maybe make a fix.
All right. Well, okay. I'm enjoying devil's advocating with you here. So let's say we have a very well-defined semantic layer, and we discovered that there was an incorrect assumption, and we can turn it, go and look and find where that error was. Maybe the error was defined in the semantic layer, or maybe it wasn't, or maybe let's assume it wasn't. So then you can say, look, we described customer, we described active user, everything was done accurately. So we can absolve the architect of that error and go and find out if it was elsewhere. And maybe it was in the LLM, right? But the LLM is more likely to make those errors. Are we not mitigating the risk of those errors by giving the LLMs better context of the data they're supposed to be analyzing?
Okay.
That wasn't rhetorical, right? Or do you not have an answer? Okay, brilliant.
No, I don't. I mean, they don't just define terms. They define what counts as revenue. They define what counts as active user, what counts as risk, what counts as fairness. They're defining concepts. They determine which metrics get surfaced, contested, and ignored. They determine what AI system is allowed to say with confidence. They're expensive and tedious, but now also they're the price of safe automation. And your point earlier about improved UX making it more feasible, and modern analytics engineering patterns like DBT labs makes sense because the semantic layer is finally being treated as a product and not a committee.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's right. So tell me. So I know you actually did. I know you've got a lot of experience in data change management and this kind of work. Just elaborate on the committee experience of semantic layers and compare that to what you mean by a product.
Well, the things die in committee, and I think if you treat it as a product, you're going through a disciplined approach to stakeholder management. And, semantic layers used to be about consistency, and now they're about governance by design, because AI can't reason over a business that can't name itself, and it has to name itself. And I think that's where I would leave that, because we're going to be out of time soon. And
we are going to be out of time. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's move on to literacy quick and then tie it.
I've got less to say about literacy. Well, I've got right. So, data literacy funding is dead. I don't have much evidence for this. I'm a data-led guy, but this is hunch-based. I fear that the funding for data literacy programs, there is evidence I see, but I can't, behind the scenes, not public, that it is drying up. People are like, we're laying everybody off anyway, so we're spending less money on our research and on our training and development funds. And it just seems to me that everybody's moved on to shiny AI. If you go to any of the big data events, they're all just big AI events now. They don't talk much about data literacy. And I think this is massively to our detriment, because AI literacy without data literacy is a disaster waiting to happen. But this is my big fear. I was sharing this conversation with Fee Crocker, whose tablet runs Dub in Australia. She said this link, which was published yesterday, MIP are a massive consultancy firm. In their survey, improving data literacy was their customers' biggest priority for 2026. So that's one data point that contradicts my feelings. They do sell data literacy training, though, so I wonder if they're biased. What do you think?
Well, it just scares me. It scares me what counts as data literacy training, but I wonder if there's a true budget cut, or if there's just a language shift. Like, are we, do you think that we're driving faster cars and canceling driver's ed, or do you think that we're just making like a driver's ed class where it kind of doesn't matter if you can parallel park, or if the car itself is just parking for you?
Ooh. And and then how does that metaphor apply to data then?
Well, because like Trailhead or compliance training. Like, compliance training where you could like have a video playing and not even really be watching it and just take it over and over and over again, and like it doesn't matter, right?
Can I tell you a secret? No, don't tell anybody. So compliance training, we had a lot of compliance training at Salesforce. Now, Trailhead, Trailhead is Salesforce's online training platform. There are some really good things on here, right? There are some excellent trails. But compliance training is a box ticking exercise. We were also encouraged to use AI at work. What I did was so we had compliance training to do all the annual Salesforce compliance training, and it was just multiple choices. So I set up one screen with the Trailhead. I set up another screen with the Google AI Studio, which could look at your screen and tell you about it, and asked it to do the quizzes for me, and it got 100% of everyone. So that was me. That is a epitome of compliance and the waste of time, or the level of which employees don't engage, because I got an AI to tick all the boxes for me, and that's how I passed the test.
Yeah.
So don't tell.
I don't think you're alone in that.
No, I didn't use that as an example of AI success. So are you optimistic? So what do you think? Optimism for data literacy training?
No, I mean, I think literacy that's like that isn't attached to real decisions becomes trivia. I think what we need is role-based decision literacy, sort of ethical dilemma type literacy, where what this person decides, what they must verify, what triggers escalation, is tied to something meaningful.
Interesting.
So
we've got some good comments here. Steve, hello Steve. I think as orgs adopt AI, they're going to realize that people need to know what good looks like, lest people just create more horrible things much faster. That's interesting. You hear of recruitment. The recruitment industry is in facing a disaster because the amount of applications they're getting are going up and up and up, because it's just so easy to do this, right? So we're just creating more stuff. But that contrasts a little with Patrick's comment. It's like, I wonder if data literacy ever really happened. I mean, that's so good, right? So
that's an
we invested in this. This is brilliant, right? We invested in all this, and yet, and still, it's still just we're still watching the world of crap charts, right?
That's a fair point. So that's actually a fair point.
Yeah. So love what Steve says, but Patrick's sort of got this reality aspect here. So here we go. So what's your conclusion? Data literacy dead, or are you're still? We're happy.
I mean, I am hopeful for it. Like I wish there were better trainings on it. I don't think that. I think it's mixed. I'll just hold out hope that it'll be mixed. Like there's some cultures that will want a real experience, where people will feel a little conflicted, but they'll be in the minority.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think we have to sit on. Yeah.
How much time do we have left?
Sorry?
How much time do we have left?
I think we said half an hour, so we have gone over. Was there anything else you wanted to? Was there more you wanted to add?
I thought we had only half an hour. I thought we had like 2 minutes left or something. No, I think that there's too many trainings that fall within this sort of easy, like let's not feel anything, right? And if we can't feel anything, we're not going to learn anything, or we're going to be entertained. And if we're entertained, we also don't learn a lot. We just remember we had a good time, and that's also not helpful.
Wow. That is a good place to begin wrapping up. My personal mantra, inspired by the BBC, Christine, is to inform, educate, and entertain. So I hope we have entertained everybody, but I hope we have made people feel things too, so that we can take some things away.
What do you hope that you're wrong about? Which prediction do you hope that you're wrong about?
Well, having created How to Speak Data and one of my primes of service being data training, then I certainly hope the last one is not is wrong. I am really guilty of wish casting the implosion of OpenAI. I find myself railing against over powerful CEOs, so I don't want that one to change. So you haven't convinced me on semantics. I think that maybe you weren't trying to. I don't think, but I think the semantic investment is going to. I'm pretty confident about that one. I don't know if OpenAI will implode. We shall see.
I think it's just going to get more focused.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's just more focused.
All right. Well, Christine, this has been amazing. If people want to follow you, and they should, how can they find you, and where should they start?
My site is dative.works, and I'm on LinkedIn as Christine Haskell. So please find me there.
All right. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I'll just say to everybody, thanks for joining the first episode of the AI Analyst ? There's going to be another episode in a couple of weeks. I'll announce that soon. Do let me know what you thought. Has this been useful? Have you been informed, educated, and entertained? That's what I want to know. All right. With that, take care, everybody, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye.